Today we're making cashew milk in a Vitamix blender.
Now, this is like one of the easiest things ever. And when I found out how to do this, I was like, that can't really be all there is to it. But seriously, it's like super simple. To do this, you do need a few things. You want a good blender. You don't actually have to have a Vitamix blender to do it, or a Blendtec or any of the other ones.
But it certainly helps.
It makes it a lot easier and a lot faster. Okay, a regular blender, you're just going to have to go a lot longer. That's all. But what you're going to need is 1 cup of cashews, a large enough container to hold the cashews with a couple of cups of water, a vessel to put the finished milk in. We use mason jars. Don't ask me why. They don't pour well or anything, but that's what we use. You're going to need some sort of a strainer, like a colander or a strainer, a bowl, or other vessel just to catch the water. And you're going to need one of these guys, which is called a nut milk bag. By the way, do you know why they call it nut milk? Because nobody would buy a product called nut juice. Anyway, let's get started. So first things first, let me get this out of my way. Second thing second.
Now, is there anything special about these cashews?
These are unroasted, unsalted cashews. So they're raw cashews, okay? And they have been soaking in water. The actual amount of water isn't critical as long as it covers them by a little bit. They've been soaking in this water for about 24 hours. So you want at least 12 hours. 24 is better. And some of them float, some of them don't. But they get all big and they're almost spongy. It's a little weird. You don't have to refrigerate it. I just leave it on the counter. Works just fine. And I'm just going to dump these off.
You get one more nut in there.
Oh, missed a nut. Can't miss a nut. Okay. Then we take the cashews, without making a mess, into the blender. And I'm just going to put this back on the blender. You can discard this stuff. I mean, you don't want to get rid of your strainer and bowl, but the liquid, I haven't really found a use for it yet. Somebody might be able to tell me. I know if this was chickpeas, this is aquafaba, and you can use that for a plethora of things. But since this is just cashew water, we're going to probably just put it down the drain. Through the magic of editing, I now have water. And you need water because you're going to turn this into more than what you started with, which is another through the magic of editing kind of thing, but it really happens.
So what kind of water do you want to use?
We're using our filtered tap water, but you can use pretty much any water that you would drink, okay? Chlorine isn't going to hurt it. It just might make it taste funny, but there's nothing that's going to make it bad for you in water, unless you use water that was bad for you in the first place. Question is, how much water? And you know what? In my research, I found a million different ways to do this. This is merely but one way, and this is how I like to do it. Now, I know that 4 cups of water fills one of these guys. So I like to make a quart at a time, which would mean 4 cups. Now, I know that all the solids in here are going to come out. So 4 cups of water added to this. What that means is it's a 4-to-1 ratio. In case I didn't mention it before, we're using a cup of cashews. 1 cup of cashews makes 1 quart of cashew milk. Pretty economical, pretty cool when you think about it. Now, put on your lid. This is important, especially in this blender. If you are using a super high-speed blender that produces heat as it blends, don't let this go for more than, say, 20 seconds at a time. Mine has a little thing in the front here that tells me how long it's been. So I use that all the time. I go about 20 seconds, maybe once or twice. So let me just get this started. Make sure your lid is on properly. Try again. "20 seconds. And then I just kind of feel it. If it feels warm, I'll stop there. It doesn't even feel warm. It still feels nice and chilled. If you were worried about the heat, you could refrigerate the cashews if you wanted to, but there's no need. Or the water, for that matter. I'm going to give it 20 more seconds. Okay, that's it. All there is to it. No, I'm just kidding. There's actually a little bit more. So now we take this off of here. You can just like move the base over.
Sure.
Then, I love this big measuring cup pitcher that we have. I use it for batters. I use it for all sorts of things. But it actually works really great to hold the bag. Now, This could be a two-person process. I've done it with one hand, one person, but it's easier with two. If I can get the lid off my mixer. There we go. Now, this is the really tricky part. This is the crucial aspect of the entire operation. You have to pour everything into the bag. Sorry, the sarcasm's a little thick. Try to get as much as you can, because, you know, it's your milk. Every last drop, every drop is sacred.
So speaking of things that are thick, the reason why we use the ratio that we're using is because besides filling our quart jar, it is the preferred thickness that we enjoy for our milk.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for a thicker milk consistency, then you want to go less on the water.
Yeah, you can actually use like 2 cups of water. You'll get, you know, less milk, but it'll be a lot richer and thicker. Conversely, you can actually go thinner and use 5 or 6 cups of water and get a lot thinner. More like, you know, most of the commercial products that you buy. This has no guar gum, no xanthan gum, no carrageenan, no extra stuff at all. I don't even put sweetener in it. I put it right in my coffee. I've put it in a glass and drank it. It's okay. What you want to do now, though, is squeeze this out. Now, this is not the neatest process. You get stuff all over the place. It just goes everywhere. You do want to use a very fine bag. I know of people that try to use cheesecloth for this. It's not really fine enough. These nut milk bags are really, really fine. So
it's almost like they were designed for this very purpose.
Yeah, they were made just for this purpose. I also don't like to squeeze too much because now, see, there's some goopy stuff here that I really don't want in my milk. All right, see this stuff on my hand? It's starting to get like too thick. It actually looks like chalky kind of product. You don't really want that. So I squeezed a little bit too much this time. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to set that over there and wipe the table off because inevitably it sprays. And that's the thing is over time you figure out like how far you can squeeze that bag. Man, the innuendo in this video, I just can't help it. And that way you know how much is left. Now, one thing to know, this is really not a milk, okay? So there's particles in suspension. Over time, they do fall out. I find that actually a nicer experience once it's actually settled a little bit. Just don't drink that last, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in the bottom of the jar. It's kind of gross. It's almost like a yogurt consistency. I just pour it down the drain. It's fine. And the next step, this is absolutely critical as well. I mean, you can pretty much just pour this into a glass and be done with it, but I like to refrigerate it first. Putting it into a mason jar from this, not really the neatest process. So we have our handy dandy canning funnel that we just absconded from our canning kit, which, it's ours. We can do that. And I'm going to pour it. Well, this time I overestimated with the water. So you know what? I'm going to have a glass of milk. Ooh, that's going to be tight too. Look at that. We got it. See? It looks like milk. It doesn't smell like milk. You know what though? It has that same creamy, refreshing, thickness. It'll fill you up. This is actually really, really healthy for you.
Cashew milk is actually my favorite of the different variations of non-dairy milks. Brian...
If you're going to talk, I'm going to drink.
Brian likes cashew milk from what we make. He prefers that. We've tried other different nut milks. For example, if you want to make almond milk, it's pretty much the exact same process.
Yep, soak the beans or soak the nuts.
If you want to make soy milk, that is a slightly different process. And thus...
another video.
Yes.
However, you can add sweetener to this if you want to, monk fruit or stevia extract if you really want to. I actually prefer it just like this.
Another thing that some people prefer, like my father, for example, is just a touch of vanilla added to it. You
can put a couple drops of vanilla extract in there, no problem. I'd rather leave the whole batch as it is and treat each individual serving as you might want to. Are you not drinking it?
I was going to do another point that we forgot to mention when we were squeezing nut milk bags. That residue that is left in the bag, you can actually put in your dehydrator if you have one, and if not, then on a tray in your oven with the door slightly open.
At the lowest temperature.
And once it's all dried out, you have flour. Yep. So in this case, because we use cashews, it'll be cashew flour. Now, what do you use cashew flour for?
Oh, wow. I use it as a thickener for sauces. I'll use it as a coating for like tofu cubes and things like that to cook with. Basically, any non-gluten flour purpose that you would use non-gluten flour for, you can totally use this for. Now, someone mentioned something about watch the carbs in this. A cup of cashews has about 39 carbs in it. There's about 4.5 to 5 grams of fiber in there. So that's like 34.5, 35 full net carbs in this entire thing, plus the flour. Now, the flour is where a lot of your starches and things like that are, so much of the carbs are actually gone. But even if we took it that way, that's 35 divided by 4, so that's like a little under 9 carbs per 8 ounces. It's really not that bad when you think about it, but it's actually significantly less than that. When I looked up commercial products, they were anywhere from 1 to 2 carbs per 8 ounces. So I think a significant amount of those starches are actually in the flour, which is pretty normal, but a lot of the fiber is too. So you're giving up the fiber, but you're also giving up those carbs. There's no added sugar here, so we don't have to worry about sugars, but there is a lot of really good nutrients in this, and it's just really, really good stuff. And, well, I drink it pretty regularly.
If you enjoyed this video, look
up. There's another one. You might like that one too.